happy to be here and just part of this community. It's been not only a highlight through the pandemic, definitely a highlight through the pandemic, but also as I was transitioning from selling my company into, where I'm going right now. So thank you so much for being part of that journey and having me here. Today, I'm so excited about this content and that you're all here today. We are going to, I'm gonna switcheroo over here. We are going to be talking about owning our strengths. Can you see my slides? You can't. Can you see my slides? Oh, well,
I can see you, but I can't see your slides yet. I gave you permission to share your screen.
Okay. I think I know what I.
If you go to that green button at the bottom of your screen.
Yeah, I think I have. One moment. So as I'm trying to navigate over to my different screen, in the chat, if you haven't done it already, jot down what you wanted to be when you grew up. There we go. That's what I wanted to do.
Yeah, it's perfect. It works.
Yeah, perfect. So what did you want to be when you grew up? And then another thing, I'm kind of curious, you don't have to put it in the chat, but just what percentage of that is true today? Like how much of you still wants to be that radio DJ for 80s music today? So we are going to be diving into owning our strengths today, and doing the kind of personal and professional development is something I'm very excited about sharing with everybody, and just what I've learned and on the journey. And just as a precursor, like this is a taste of tools. It's going to give you tools that you can use. There'll be an introduction to tools that you can use today, tomorrow, and pretty much for as long as you want to continue to develop yourself. So super excited about that. And let's dive in a little bit. So how I'm personally approaching like our strengths is the way that I look at it. It's a combination of three things. It's the gifts that we've been given, like the kind of things that we've always been really good at our whole lives. The things that we love to do, and then the skills that we've developed. And if we're lucky, especially in this She session, we can find where those things overlap and how we can position ourselves in the marketplace. That's kind of what the lens is that I'm looking through today for us. But it can also be used as a, like when I believe when we're standing in our strengths, we're really able to just become the best version of ourselves. That's going to reciprocate and reverberate, not only within our career, but into our families, into our personal life, and just kind of help us to lead the best life that we want to have. So this session's, let me keep going here. So I kind of did this exercise for myself, and as I was filling it out, I had this flash to when I'd first started my company that I founded called ImageThink, is a graphic recording firm, a creative consulting firm that I started. It was in the early stages of it, so it was probably like 10 years ago, and I was sitting on the floor in my living room, and I had all these brand new fancy Neuland markers on the floor. And I was looking at all the colors, organizing the markers, knowing that I was going to go draw pictures for an organization the next day to help people see what they were saying. And I thought, man, my 10-year-old self would be so delighted to know that this is what this is what I'm doing today. And at that point, at the early stages of my first business, ImageThink, I had no freaking idea like what the market was, where the business was going to go. I didn't know if I was going to do it for more than a year or two, or if I'd have employees or anything. All I knew is that I loved drawing, and I knew it was something that I was good at. And I saw that people got a lot of value out of being able to see what they were saying and really be able to get aligned with other people and have a visual and tangible representation of what was being said during business meetings. Lo and behold, it actually did become something that was very valuable. And I have been fortunate enough in my life to take the creative consulting that I do. I help people to get clarity through creativity, whether it's drawing or storytelling, looking at problems in a different way and having fun solving them. I facilitate and design sessions, and I've done that in 15 different countries. I've worked with the Fortune 100 companies, and I wrote a book called Draw Your Big Idea. So that's actually some of the exercises we're going to do today are from that book. So let's see. So today, my approach is, and if you all want to come, we are recording, so I understand if you don't want to be filmed, but if you're comfortable, I would love to see your faces so we can all have a moment to connect with one another and see who's on the call and be present with everybody. Thanks, Tamara. Good to see you. Susan, thanks so much. Hey, Ashley and Barbara, Eva, now it feels like we're actually all part of a group in the same room together. Thanks so much. Okay, so this is my approach. Let me know, with a thumbs up if this sounds like a good way to spend the next hour. But today's successes, one, I want to give you some tools to just wake up your creativity, to find other ways to get yourself out of your head, put your ideas on paper, and get some creative juices flowing. We are going to do some exercises, give you some tools to help you remember what your gifts are. In case we forgot, kind of stand in that authenticity of who you really are. We're going to start to declare some of the things that you love, that really light you up and get you in that flow state where time passes without even thinking about it. And then we're going to also be honoring your skills, like where we've put so much time and effort developing our careers, and how we can use that experience to build. Excuse me. And then we'll wrap it up and give you some reminders, some tools to help you nurture those strengths and carry them forward throughout the day. So does that sound like a good use of time for the next 45, 50 minutes? Yeah? All right, thanks. So excited. All right, so part of what I do in drawing also happens to be some of the rules for improvisation. Improv theater, where they're just going with it. Is everyone familiar with improv theater, improvisational theater? It's like Saturday Night Live, right? Yeah. Okay. So some of the rules that they have is, one is it's not on here, but it's yes and. So it's always accepting what is and building on it. So it's taking ideas and building upon what's given to you, whether it's something that is downloaded into your own brain or something that somebody else says. Take it as an opportunity to build on it. With that, there really is no failures in this session. There are only gifts. So I mentioned that we're going to be drawing a little bit and waking up our creativity. If that makes you feel like you're going to spin out into a panic, no worries. There's absolutely nothing wrong that you can do in this session. There's only things that are given to us as gifts. And in fact, one of my dear friends, this amazing woman named Sarah Walco, she is a director of art, and she's a director at the New Jersey Center of the Arts over in Summit, for those of you in New York. And she works with many different demographics within her own community over there in Summit. And she really uses art as a tool for healing. And I love what she says. She always says that art isn't a thing, it's a way. So we're going to be putting pen to paper, drawing up our ideas, and it really is, it's about the ideas and not the art. So embrace that and give yourself some grace as we move into that today. Also, we have a short period of time here, so I want us to embrace uncertainty and be spontaneous as we're going through these exercises. You're not going to have you could spend hours on this, but these are tools that you can take with you. And then please, no judgment for yourself, no judgment for others. We're going to be going into breakouts and sharing. So let's keep that open mind. And the last thing, be present. We all have such incredibly busy lives in different ways. There's a bazillion things going on right now, and we are just all here taking the time to take care of ourselves and be, nurture ourselves. So please give yourself the gift of being present. Sound like something we can all sign up for? Sounds good. Thumbs up if you've got it. All right, thanks so much. All right, so let's get to it. Let's break out that paper and pen that you have nearby. It really can be anything that you have available to you, and just start doodling. The prompt is to draw yourself at age 10. We put in the chat what we wanted to be when we grow up. What does that little girl look like? Start to doodle what that girl looks like. Like, how is she standing? What is she standing on? What is the feeling that she has when she thinks about herself in this happy and confident space where the whole world is open to her, just available? And think about the space that she's in. Maybe it's in the backyard or in a bedroom, sitting at a desk. Maybe she has a book, or surrounded by friends. Really try to capture who's around her, where she's at. Whatever you do is absolutely the right thing to do. So the right mark to be making. Maybe there's a way to capture the sound that's happening in that space when she's completely entrenched in the joyful activity that she's doing. Maybe there's a smell that starts to waft through the room. So as you're doodling and drawing and listening to me talk, one of the great things about drawing is that it helps you to center, it helps you to focus, and it actually helps to increase memory retention. Because when we are putting pen to paper and we're actually physically doing that activity, it is waking up 4 different learning modalities at the same time. You're listening to what I'm saying, so you're able to absorb that information. The kinetic learning is another way that we absorb information. So your hand moving along the paper is opening up that kinetic learning. You're visualizing the joy and confidence that you had when you were this young girl. So you're actually setting those neuropaths in your brain through that visualization. And then let's see what's, and then shortly we'll be sharing verbally, or if you share this with a partner or someone in your house later, you're also using that verbal learning. So it's a great tool to use with your teams. And now you know that if somebody is doodling while you're talking, they're not ignoring you. They're actually, it's their way of starting to absorb information and actually cement those ideas in their head. All right, so I'm gonna move this picture of me out of the way. So now that you have the image that you've started to doodle, maybe jot around in words around around it. You know, what did you love to do when you were young? What was something that came very easily to you that brought you a lot of joy? Something to think about. Where does that show up for you in your adult life? Is it, you know, creativity is one for me, like, and working with my daughter and playing with her like every day is an outlet for creativity. You know, not the fine artist that's showing in museums today that I thought I would be when I was, you know, 18 years old. But that creativity shows up every day and is a source of joy. So where does that show up for you as an adult? And what is something that people always say to you, like, wow, I wish I could do that as well as you? Is there an area in your life where people say that? People always say that about my drawing skills, and I always just think it's about listening. Like, I feel like listening is my superpower. Drawing is pretty fun too. So let's see. Okay. So now let's see, for those of you who have your screens up, can you hold up your images so we can take a look? Oh, wow. Eva, that's amazing, or Ava. Nice. Look at the detail on these. The joy that Francine's child has on her face. Oh my gosh. Incredible. Tamara sitting calmly under a tree. I bet your mother loved you. All right. Great. Well, I'm going to invite you to can you put into the chat, like looking at your picture, if you were able to sum up one of the natural, so this is a section about what are your natural gifts. If you were to look at that child that you drew and the things that you wrote around it, what is the natural gift that you feel that you have had your whole life? Why don't you go ahead and, if you're comfortable, throw that into the chat. It's just a way of kind of sharing with everybody, holding ourselves accountable, making it public. So it's nurturing, good at socializing, creating and telling stories, Nicole says. Anuli says she's also good at networking, nurturing friendships. Wow, there's lots of community. Dancing, confidence, connecting with others, writing. It's beautiful. It's so great to see that. So, so if you have that word written down on your sheet, go ahead and circle it now, or add that to your piece of paper, and then we can set that one aside. Talking to new people easily, writing and reading, easily expressing myself into words. Making new friends, telling stories. Wow, are you guys hearing a theme that's happening here? Making new friends. I don't think it's a coincidence that we're all together here. All right, so now we're gonna make a shift and we're gonna move on to, well, before I do that, like, how was that for you? I'd love to just hear somebody share, like, was there a surprise that came to you, or a response to that exercise?
Hi.
Hey, Anuli, how are you?
Fine, thank you. So sorry I'm not on camera, but I've been paying attention. So as I drew my 10-year-old self, it's summertime, there's a fresh summer rain, and there are like beautiful trees behind me. I'm not that good of an artist, but this is what it looked like in my mind. They're flowers, and essentially, like, um, I felt really happy. Like, I had my friends, my cousins around me, we were all playing, and it kind of just reminds me of who I am now. As part of my job, I do a lot of like networking and socializing, and it's where I really thrive. And I never really thought about it until I had to draw this picture.
Oh,
But yeah.
amazing. Can we hear from somebody else too? Thank you so much for sharing that. Nicole.
Yeah, so at first I drew me on stage, and when I looked at the structure I had drawn of the stage, it reminded me of this, it kind of looks like this puppet theater, and my father had built me a puppet theater, and I used to put on puppet shows, and I would actually make the puppets and come up
Oh my
with
gosh.
stories. So just drawing the shape of the stage reminded me of, I forgot that I did puppet shows. I loved doing that.
Awesome. And how does that show up today? Like, what was the natural gift that came out of it for you?
Well, I think it's storytelling. I mean, I'm a creative director, and I think coming up with stories and characters and telling their stories, and it's all some kind of performance and narrative development.
Oh, so cool. How about one more person? Is there anyone else who would be interested in sharing?
I'll go because mine's a little different. When I was 10, I actually lived just a few blocks from a beach, and I loved going to the beach every day. And now I live near a beach again, and I find that it's a great source of grounding and a great source of inspiration, and I feel drawn to it. And it's something that has really stayed with me. And when you asked us to go back and do the 10, it's ironic that I lived near a beach then, and I think I made my way in life back to the beach because I think it's a very centering place for me.
Nice. Thanks for sharing. Amazing. All right. Let's move on. So we're going to hold that. You can set that aside. We're going to come back to it. But now we're going to talk about our loves. And when I say loves, it's the thing that makes you light up, the thing that you could work on it for 5 hours and you don't even notice the time going by, the thing that you'll stay up all night doing until 1:30 in the morning, like, oh man, I really need to go to sleep so I can get up in the morning. So what are the things that you love? So on this page, you can choose to write, you can choose to draw, you can choose to write it out. It's really your choice and it's up to you. But I'm just going to leave this image up as a prompt, and I'll read through some of these questions to go through it. I'll give you between 3 and 5 minutes to kind of jot down some ideas. So, what do you love most in your current work? What makes you lose track of time? What gets you into that state of flow? What are hobbies that you love to do? We saw some about the gifts. So it's singing, dancing, writing, connecting with friends. What are some of those hobbies? And do they show up in your career at all? Like, how do those hobbies show up in your career? And what do you love talking about? When you're at a cocktail party, you're like, oh man, I just talked that person's ear off. What was it that you were chatting about that you talked to them about? And then another one, what would you do for free? It makes you so happy. You love it so much. You would just do it for free. So go ahead. I'm going to give you a few minutes of quiet to do that and answer some of those questions. I'm going to put 3 minutes on the clock, but I'll check in to see how everyone's doing. Francine wrote in the chat, is it wrong that I spend almost all of my free time planning for my family? That sounds like a sole purpose to me. Perhaps, or yeah. And if the image is too small, I just have like my image as the, you should be able to pin my video to make it bigger. Or I can spotlight it. How's that? There we go. So I've got 1 more minute for us scheduled here. All right, I've got about 20 more seconds for us. So we do have some more time. Would it be valuable to spend a little bit more time doing this section, or would you like to move into groups to kind of share out? Looks like everybody, at least people that I can see, look like they're kind of ready to move on. Perfect, thanks, Eva. Is it Ava or Eva?
It's Eva.
Eva, okay, thanks. All right, so taking a look at what you've jotted down, again, take a look over the whole slide that you just drew up. Is there 1 or 2 things that really stand out to you? Is there a word that repeats? Is there a phrase that maybe you wrote down in different ways that show up in different areas? Is there something that surprised you? So you can underline that or circle that and think about, is there a way that you could summarize that into like 1 phrase or one sentence? So I'd like to go out into breakouts. Jennifer, is that something that you can help me with?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
No worries. I'm just trying to figure out how many. You
Yeah.
said 3 people, breakout room?
Yeah, I was going to go with 3 in a breakout room. And
Great.
so you all, when you go into the breakouts, each person will have 2 minutes to share, and you can, I think, just share like what you've learned about yourself, like what you've jotted down for yourself, and share that with each other. And then, if there's extra time, you can reflect back to one another what you heard. Does that make sense?
Okay. Here you
So what
go.
did you learn, and then share back. So you'll have a total of 7 minutes in the breakout group.
Go ahead, Heather.
Hi guys, I'm like
wildly and absurdly late.
That's okay. Diane, I think this is exactly what you were supposed to have done. So they're in breakouts right now, but I'll just take, they're going to be there for about another minute and a half. And that's the perfect,
No worries.
it's a perfect amount of time for me to just walk you through what we're doing. Does that sound good?
Great.
Okay.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. Thank you for being flexible.
Oh, my pleasure. So we're talking about owning our strengths today. And so we did an exercise, a drawing exercise of, drawing ourself as a 10-year-old child to just kind of wake up that creativity. And we talked about how drawing is a great tool for cementing ideas and learning on a couple different levels, different learning modalities. Then I led them through a session, which I'll share some of the exercises with you in a sec. Remembering our gifts, things that you're really good at, and you have been since you were young. Right now, they're in the breakout talking about the things that they love, things that get you excited, something you would do for free, things that put you in the state of flow. Next, we're going to be talking about our skills, and then we'll dive into some tools to help us remember how to stand in our strengths. Went over some improv agreements. Those are some of the questions. Excuse me while I take a drink of water. Around your natural gifts, like the thing where, Jennifer, can we give him a 30-second? I think that should be about, 30-second warning.
Yes.
Thanks. The gifts where people are like, man, I wish I could do that as well as you do. The thing that you've heard your whole life, what that natural gift is that you have. And then they just went into what excites you. I'm gonna put myself in the middle of this heart. Things that you love, in your current work that makes you lose track of time. Maybe it's a hobby, thinking about, how does that feed into my career? And then that
I
idea
love
of
this one.
what would you
This is
do for
great.
food? And this is one of the questions that is kind of new to me, is like, what do you love to talk about? That one was a good one for me to think about. So I think they're going to be coming back from the breakouts any second now. Hello, everybody. Welcome back.
Hello.
Welcome back. Welcome back.
Oh,
The question I had.
What did you put on the mom? There's glue.
There's glue over at Francine's house. So what is something that you learned about your partner? What did you hear in the sharing of your loves and your natural gifts? I want to hear from a couple of people. Maybe somebody who hasn't spoken already.
I really enjoyed learning about one of the members of my group where she and I, have a similar background of experiential production or experiential creation. And so enjoying solving complex problems for museums to bring information to life in a way that's tangible and understandable. From my background in experiential, I've never really thought of that in such, in that scale. So I just found that very interesting. And you don't really think about that process behind the scenes when you go to something like a museum.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing, Kelsey. What was another group? Who else was in another group, and what did you hear from your partners?
I'll chime in. So Francine specifically talked a lot around personalization of experience for others. So in her roles previously, loved creating a unique and personalized experience. And then Nicole talked a lot about all of these creative channels and ways, dressing up like if she's invited to a costume party, she finds a lot of excitement of figuring out where and how am I going to, create the costume, whereas I'd love to buy it, right? So interesting to see how it applies in both of their worlds, on the creative as well as on the marketing side of things.
Awesome, thank you. And I think there was one other group. What did you hear in that third group?
I was with Annalie. It was the two of us, and she was talking about that she's a twin and that she's always been more outspoken than her brother, and like, connecting with people and forming relationships was really important. So, and that she connects. She's really good at that in her job in healthcare. She's like really outgoing. So, I sort of. Related to that, where I create experiences also in events, and I love forming relationships with people and just sort of seeing them on site and enjoying the experience.
Awesome. Well, thank you all for sharing. Is there anybody else who feels compelled to share before we move on? All right, let's move on to this is our skill area. So again, as a reminder, the way that I'm approaching our strengths is looking at our gifts, the things that we love, and then the skills. And again, I'll prompt you with some questions. You can either start to doodle them as I'm talking, or you can write them out. And the skills area is kind of like, we've all heard of Malcolm Gladwell's 1,000 hours, right? Like when you know that you've mastered something after you put in 1,000 hours. That's kind of what we're thinking about here, is like, where have you put in your 1,000 hours? What is that skill that you've developed that is, kind of, is that, where's that magic to the greatness that you have? So again, just feel free to doodle or write out some of the answers to these questions. What was your educational focus? What did you go to school for? What did you study? Jennifer and I were talking about mentorship while everyone was in the breakouts. And what did your mentors do? Who are the people that influenced you, in your early 20s, or your teens, early 20s, or even today? What do your mentors do? Are they entrepreneurs? Are they artists? Are they other mothers? What kind of influence have they gifted to you? Another question around the skills. What do you learn? What do you like to learn in your spare time? Maybe it's a sport. Maybe it's diving deep into a book, developing a skill, watching documentaries. What do you like to learn? Personal, professional development. What do you like to learn in your spare time when no one else is watching? And Francine, when the kids and your family has a little bit of a break, you're able to take a break from them. And kind of following that question, what trainings have you taken? So we're doing one right now. We're doing a professional development training. What other trainings have you done? Somebody asked me, Francine, recently, like, oh, what kind of hobbies do you have? What do you like to do when you're not working, or taking care of your family? And I was like, is there anything else? Like, I don't know how to answer that question, like, at all, especially during this time when we're all at home. Okay, right. So this is an area where you might have to come back to this, but great exercise. Write out all of the jobs you've ever had. That first job working in fast food, or, babysitting, or whatever that might have been, all the way to what you're doing today. And then what is one skill you learned at each one of these jobs? So again, Jennifer and I were talking about mentorship, and this is an exercise that I did with my mentee, and it was really powerful to see how, even if you have a job, or you had a job that didn't, you didn't think was like directly related to your lifetime goal. You know, there's a skill there. There's something that you can learn from it. And then another one, you know, going back to the child experience, what were jobs that you were exposed to as a child? You know, what kind of jobs did your caregivers have? Your parents, your grandparents, maybe your neighbors, people in your community. What kind of jobs were you exposed to as a child? So I feel like this is reading Francine's funny chat. So this is one of the examples of, like, right now, for me, I think this slide took the most, I took the most time kind of thinking about this slide. And maybe right now you can kind of, maybe there's something that's just rising up from the page for you, something that's very clear of like, oh, this is my skill. This is the thing that I'm really good at. And all of these jobs that I've had starting, you know, one of my early jobs was working at Subway sandwiches. Like somehow, you know, working with people one-on-one has led me to, you know, this conversation that we're having today. So if you see a through line in here, jot that down for yourself and circle it. Okay, so I know that you might not be ready to move on, but we're gonna do it anyway, because I wanna make sure that you have everything, all the tools that I wanted to share with you. So take that, and you can set that aside as well. And now is the time where we start to bring them together. And I love the Venn diagram, like, you know, where is there overlap? Is there overlap between the things that you love and the gifts that you have? Overlap between the skills and the gifts, the skills and the love? And maybe there's one or two things that start to stand out that, like, wow, this has just been something I really love doing my whole life. For me, when I did this, it was drawing and telling stories and helping people, you know, listening to people tell their stories and helping them to make connections and get some clarity from some of the questions that they might have in those conversations and storytelling. So that's something that you can take with you and work on. And then ultimately, it will be, you know, for the sake of, you know, thinking about this she session, how does that apply in the marketplace? Where is there a need? And how can you take your gifts and your loves and your skills, all those hours that you've spent in your life dedicated to a practice, you know, how can you solve a need in the world? How can you bring that out into the world, into, maybe it's into your industry, maybe it's in a new industry. Where does that show up? And I'll let you guys hold that and take that with you. I'm happy to share the slides afterwards if you want to send them out so you have these questions to prompt you. Speaking of questions, does anybody have a question right now coming out of what we just did? Nope. Okay, I'm gonna keep going on. So once you have really been able to identify what your strengths are, like what you know, really lights you up, what you're really good at, where you've dedicated your time to, and kind of thought about, you know, where that can be applied in the world, it's time to nurture those strengths. So a lot of these things, I know we're all professionals and have, you know, had our careers for a long time, but I always find it helpful to get a little bit of a reminder. So please consider this as a little nudge and a reminder to every day choose your strengths over your weaknesses. You know, choose to, if you have the opportunity to do something that you really love, that you're really good at, you know, continue to nurture that. And, you know, the weaknesses, maybe there's somebody that it can be delegated to, or maybe it can be something that you do first just to check it off your list and get it done. But make sure that we save time to nurture your strengths. And to follow that up is like, commit to a time investment, commit to making time, put it on your calendar. Like if there is something we read in the chat earlier, that reading and writing was a strength, something that was loved, you know, carve out 15, 20 minutes in the morning before you truly start your day to invest in that strength. These incremental investments really start to add up. You know, Francine was talking about her family and her kids, and through the pandemic, I took 15 minutes a day to read with my daughter. And she was 3 when the pandemic started, and she learned to read within a couple months. It was absolutely mind-blowing to see how 15 minutes a day you can really develop and nurture and make some serious change. So another thing to nurture your strengths is collect resources. You know, if you don't have the time, you don't have the money, where are other ways that you can call in people to support you? You know, maybe there's other things like finances, or maybe there's books if you want to learn a new skill or develop your strength. Like maybe there's some books that you can read or order from Amazon or the small bookseller that we really want to support. Looking at some documentaries. And then another one is commit to delivering. And having an accountability partner is always, I've always found in my life to be a very powerful thing, like whether it's forming a mastermind where you meet monthly to share what your goals are and what some of those milestones you're going to hit over 30 days. Having somebody there, I have another accountability partner that we text, you know, once a week around fitness to see where we're at, just so we can continue to nurture the things that we love about ourselves. So, and then, you know, follow that schedule. And importantly, you know, we've been drawing and using creativity as a way to explore our strengths today. Keep it visible. Having something visible, it is so helpful. In one, it stands as it's a visual reminder. So if you have your strengths, or you redraw your Venn diagram with your strengths, and you put it up on your mirror, even if it's in a place that only you see, it's a daily reminder of that commitment to nurturing your strengths that you're going to have. And perhaps it takes the form of a habit tracker. So you're going to commit to 30 days of strength, of, you know, writing 20 minutes a day, making sure that you keep that visible and you track that habit. It's a way of not only reminding you, but it's also a way to celebrate, because you can start to see that tangible progress that you're making by tracking those habits. And then plus it's another way to keep your accountability. So if you have other people in your space, they might ask questions and start to keep you accountable for that commitment that you're making to yourself. So that is, I just want to take a moment, got 2 minutes left here. And I just want to say that I'm really grateful for all of you joining today. I'd love to hear any takeaways that you have, or maybe just you could type in the chat one of your biggest takeaways from the day so we can all see what each other has learned. Oh yes, I'll put my link. I am on LinkedIn. Thank you so much. Yeah, so one of the biggest takeaways that you have, please add that in the chat. Power of drawing. Barbara. Thanks, Barbara. And as you all are processing and being consistent is another one. Great. So I want to use, I love this quote. I think it's perfect for this session is don't ask what the world needs. Ask what makes you come alive and go do it, because what the world needs is people who have come alive. So take that with you. Thank you, everybody, for coming today and giving this time to yourself.
Thank you so much, Heather.
Yeah.
Really appreciate it. And thank you, ladies, for joining. See you on Wednesday, whoever's joining.
Thank you, Heather.
Yeah.
Thank you. It was great. My drawing is so bad I couldn't even show it.
Oh, I love it. It's perfect. Very
Oh my
simple
God.
and
My
direct.
son was like, it looks like you're 5. I'm like, you're drawing that as a 5-year-old.
It's about the ideas, not the art. You're all good.
Exactly. Thank you, guys. Have a great day. Bye.
Bye. Thanks.